Audio Jungle.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is Roland Hartmann from graphicinmotion.com, and in this tutorial I want to show you how to customize my Cinematic Sky Opener After Effects template. Before we get started in After Effects, I quickly want to point out that if you want to use the same font as I used for this template, you see it right here, then please check out the links folder in the Cinematic Sky project folder. So here you can find the links folder, and inside this links folder you will find a link that's called the Yataghan font, and it will lead you to font space where you can download this font. So please download the font, install it on your system, and then you can open up the project file. The second link is for the audio track, so if you want to use the same audio track as you saw in the preview video, then you can get this following this link. Okay, now let's jump into After Effects and let's take a look at the project. When you open up the project, 4 compositions should be already open, and you see one of them is called the render composition, and as the name already says, you should render out this composition in the end. Then we have the audio composition. Here you can put in your audio track. We have 2 logo or text placeholders where you can import your logos or your texts. So if we take a look at the animation, you see that in the beginning we have this part of we fly through the clouds, and then our first placeholder is revealed and is getting visible behind the clouds. Then we have this kind of disintegration or dissolve effect where our first title is dissolving into particles and debris. Then we fly close to our dissolve here, and then in the end the final title is approaching the camera and will be revealed. As these title placeholders say, you can put in text or logos or whatever you want into these placeholders, and this is what I want to show you in the first part of this tutorial. In the second part I will show you how you can change the look of this template. But first of all, let's change the first placeholder. And therefore I will simply choose a frame between 7 and 8 seconds, because there my first placeholder is kind of visible, or even a little bit further that I'm closer. Yeah, right here. And now I can go to my first placeholder composition. If it is not already open in the timeline here, you can also find it in the project window. Simply double click the logo text 1 placeholder to open it up. And now you see we have 2 text layers here. In my case, I do not want to enter a text here, I want to enter my logo. So I go to File and choose Import and Import File. And now I choose my logo. Click Import, make sure that PNG sequence is not selected, because I do not want to select the PNG sequence, so simply one PNG. Then I drag it on top of my placeholders. I can already make this invisible because I do not want to use this text layer here. Now I will scale down my logo to about 25% in my case, and I will also reposition it by moving it up a bit. And then let's take a look at the render composition. And you see it updates, and now my logo is visible, and you also see that I have this kind of a 3D extrude here. What is also obvious is that my logo got colored. You see now it is black, it has a black surface, and if we zoom in here and if we change the resolution to full for a moment, you see that the side here is getting like this shiny golden color. We will deal with the coloring of our titles and of our logos in a moment, but for now let's move on to the second placeholder. In my second placeholder, I want to change the title. Therefore, I simply double click the first text layer here and I type in Cinematic Sky Opener, and I will make my subtitle here invisible because I do not want this to be visible. And then I go to the render comp, move my cursor to the end here, around 17 seconds. And let's take a look. And you see now the template updated our title, and it also has a 3D extrude and this shiny metal texture. So if you do not want to change the look, if you like this kind of sunset scene here, then you are finished with the customization and you can render out the template. Of course, you can also add your audio. Therefore, you simply import your audio file. It works exactly the same as importing your logo. You go to import, import file, and then you select your audio file and drag it into the audio composition. Make sure it starts at frame number 0, and then you're good to render out the render composition. If you want to change the look of this template, then I will show you now which possibilities you have. So first of all, as I already mentioned, we have our logo and our titles, and they are colored in a special way. If we take a look at our render composition, we have a layer that's called Look Setup, and it's right on top here. If we go to the Effect Controls panel now, and by the way, if this is not visible by default, you can go to the Windows tab, and then you can choose the Effect Controls panel right here, then it will be visible. And if you take a look at the settings, the possibilities that we have here, you see we have a few settings for the lights, and then we have settings for the title or for the logo colors. And I want to start with these. As a default, the front color is set to black. And if you change this color to, let's say, a dark gray, you will see immediately what this does. The color of our logo changes. Okay, so far so good. So if you want to change the front color, then you can do it with this setting. And by the way, this also applies for our second placeholder. So whatever color you put in here will update both placeholders. So let's go back to our first placeholder. Then the second control here is the title side color. And if I change this, and I will change it to some kind of a bluish color now, because I already know that I want to make some kind of a night scene in this customization process. So let's decrease the brightness and the saturation a bit, make it a little bit of grayish bluish, and you see what this does. It updates the side colors here, the color of the extrude of our logo, and of course also the color of the extrude of our second placeholder. The third option here is to change the strength of the reflection, and it's set to 40 by default. If I set it to 100, it will become a little bit more obvious what this does, because you see we have this cloud environment here, and if I set this to a higher value, then the reflection in my material, in my front material here, will get a little bit more obvious, and it looks like a little bit more of a reflective material. In my case, I will set it back to 40, and I will also set back the color to black, because I think that this looks better than this gray. If you want your original colors of your logo to be visible, then you have to go to the project folder and to the comps folder. And inside this comps folder, you will find two precomps compositions. The first of all is called logo text 1 precomp, and the second one is called logo text 2 precomp. So if I open both of these up for a moment, you will see what this is. Here we have these 3D extrudes. So if you want to change, let's say, the color of your logo here, you do not want the black to be applied, then please select the third layer from the top here, this one here, and go to the Effect Controls panel and simply delete or disable the fill effect by clicking this little button here. And now you see I have my original colors visible here. And exactly the same applies for this placeholder. So if you imported your logo into the second placeholder, you can do the same here. You can come in here and then deactivate this fill color, and the original color will be displayed. In my case, I do not want to use my original color. I want to use the fill, so I will enable the fill again. Now I can close these compositions. You do not need to change anything here. Go back to the render and we can continue customizing our project. To change the look of this from a day scene or a sunset scene like it is by default to a night scene, I built in several different options. So let's go back to our look setup. I already mentioned that we have a few light controls here, and if you take a look, we have two lights active here, and we have two possibilities to change the color of these lights, and we also have possibilities to change the intensities of these lights. By the way, if you want to see everything that is going on in this animation, please press this little guy here, the hide all layer button. And then you see there are a bunch of elements in this animation, but to make it simpler and to make it, to have a better overview, I simply hided these layers. If you want to create a night scene, I would recommend to, first of all, turn off the second light. The second light is this yellowish light, and this creates this warm feeling here. And if we turn this intensity here to 0, you will see what this does immediately. It will change the look quite dramatically, and we immediately have some kind of a night feeling here. But of course now our flare, which is the representation of our sun here, doesn't really fit the scene. So I included a second version. If you take a look at these two purple layers here, one is called sun and it is active now, and the second one is called moon. So if we disable the sun layer and enable the moon layer instead, you will see that now we have a flare that looks a little bit more like a full moon. The same applies for our color grading. You see that I have one layer that is called color grading day, and the second one is called color grading night. You see that on both layers there are basically only some level effects and some curves. So if I disable my color grading day, then you will see the original colors only lit by our light. And if I now activate my color grading for the night, then you will see now we have a little bit more of contrast, a little bit of a bluish and dark color grading. You can of course now play around with these effects here or apply your own effects and create your own look. But yeah, as a preset, I think these two layers work quite well. Now let's take a look at our texts and let's see whether this blends together nicely. So I will move my cursor to around 8 seconds. What I want to check now is whether my side colors match my surroundings here. So I will get in a little bit closer and let's see. You see that here the disperse is already starting and our flare is quite bright here, so it doesn't look too bad, but I think maybe I will take a look in the end here. Maybe it's a little bit too bright. So let's go back to our look setup and let's change the logo title side color here a bit. Let's make it a little bit darker, like so. Let's try this out. And I think that this looks really cool. And what else can you do? You see, we have another option that is called the light sweep color. And if we take a look in between, I don't know, 16, 17 seconds here, we should see the light sweep. You probably saw it in the preview video that travels through our or over our file and title here. Let's say, yes, right here. And you see now it has a little bit of a strange color because this color is set to yellow. And if I change this color now to bluish color, let's see whether this looks better. And in this case, it blends way better with the scene. Now we can of course change the intensity of the light sweep. So if I put this to 0, then the light sweep is off if you do not like it. And if I put it to, let's say, 150, then it will be very, very strong. But I think that the standard setting of 35 is quite good. Okay, so this is it more or less. You see that you can change the look of this quite easy and that you have all the options to create day and night scenes. I hope that you like this template. If you have any further questions, please feel free to send me a message through my Video Hive profile or also through my website, which is www.graphicinmotion.com. Thank you very much for watching. Have fun with the template and I really hope to see you soon. Goodbye.
Audio Jungle.